I was sprawled on the couch in my old Brooklyn apartment, the kind of place that smells of damp wood and regret. A sweater stretched loose across my shoulders, soft against my neck. The fire in the corner crackled, spitting out cedar-scented heat that hung heavy in the room. My glass sat tight in my hand, wine catching the dim light like a secret. Jack, my father's old friend, leaned over, pouring more into my glass with a steady hand, precise, like he was measuring something more than liquor. His fingers brushed mine as he passed the glass. Nothing much, but I always notice. He didn't say a word, just looked at me, his eyes sharp, waiting for an answer I hadn't decided to give. I glanced down at my wine, but the silence between us thickened, like the air before a storm. If you've ever been here, you know what to do. Hit that like button. Subscribe. It matters. If this is your first time, you picked a hell of a place to start. Thanks for being here. Now, let's get to it. The glass tilted in Jack's hand, wine glinting under the low light as he filled mine again. Careful, deliberate. I curled up tighter on the couch, legs tucked under, that old sweater pulled wide, brushing my throat. The fire popped in the corner, throwing shadows that danced like ghosts on the walls. I gripped my glass. His fingers grazed mine again when he handed it over. I started to pull away, but there was a hitch, a pause before he let go. Maybe nothing, but I noticed. I looked down. His fingers lingered, unmoving. Not deliberate, but more than accidental. I waited to see if the moment would pass. It didn't. The silence grew heavier, a weight pressing down on my chest. Not uncomfortable, just different. I realized how close he was when he leaned toward the couch, his shadow swallowing mine. I looked up. He was watching me. No smile, no words, just watching. The kind of look that makes you wonder what he's really thinking, what he's hiding behind those steady eyes. "You always did like good wine," he said. Low. Not backing off. I gave a small laugh. "Only when you bring it." That got a smile out of him. Just a flicker. "Been that way since I was 22, he said. "Always had good taste." And now I asked, my voice steadier than the pulse hammering in my throat. He leaned forward, just enough to pull my attention. My posture didn't shift, and neither did his. "You're a different woman now," he said, soft but clear, like a blade slipping through silk. I noticed his hand still there, but my focus was on the silence, thick with things unsaid. I stayed still, unsure if I should speak. I held the glass. He didn't move. I didn't move. The glass sat between us, untouched. His hand stayed close, his thumb just behind my knuckles. Steady, but not firm. The music whispered in the background, a low hum I couldn't make out anymore. Then, without a word, he let go of the glass. Just the glass. His fingers brushed my wrist as he pulled back. He paused, then eased back. I noticed the pause more than the touch. He didn't return to the chair across from me. Instead, he sat beside me. The cushion sank under his weight, pulling me closer without trying. I stayed still. My pulse didn't. He brushed a strand of hair from my face, his fingers grazing my cheek, light as a whisper but heavy with intent. I shifted toward him, not sure what he'd say next. He didn't stop looking at me, and I wasn't sure I wanted him to. His hand dropped, resting lightly on my forearm. The silence shifted, no longer easy. I wasn't sure what I expected him to do next. The quiet didn't feel normal anymore. He leaned forward, just a fraction. If this feels wrong, say so. I don't want to misread you. I nodded once. It's fine. Part of me knew what I'd say before I said it. He reached up, glancing at me, adjusting the edge of my sweater near my collar, his fingers lingering like they belonged there. The moment stretched, awareness settling like a spark I couldn't name. Then he lifted his hand to my jaw, slow, sure, cupping the space just below my cheek. He looked at me like he knew something I hadn't said. I didn't know what to do with that. His hand held my jaw, warm, steady, and I leaned into it before I realized I froze when I saw how close we were. The stillness held something I couldn't name, something dangerous and alive. Then he leaned forward, eyes never wavering. He kissed me, soft, steady, and I kissed him back without hesitation. No words, no rush, just the moment settling in. My fingers touched him, brushing the fabric of his shirt. I shifted, tucking one leg under to face him better. He was close. His hand moved to the back of my neck, not gripping, just resting, gentle but sure. His thumb traced my cheek, then slid down near my arm and stayed there. The silence between us felt understood, a quiet that didn't need breaking. I leaned forward again, not because I had to, but because I wanted to be closer. My hands rested on his chest, steadying me. The fabric under my fingers was soft, familiar, nothing more. He didn't move, just looked at me. And in that pause, something settled, something heavy and inevitable. He was close, his forehead brushing mine, light as a confession. No need to explain. Whatever it was didn't need words, just the choice to stay silent and stay. His forehead rested against mine, close, quiet, still. Not a kiss, just his warmth at a distance that felt impossibly close, like he'd found the place to rest and decided not to leave. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until my chest tightened. My fingers gripped the sides of his shirt, clinging to keep steady. He stayed there, saying nothing, just breathing. His hand rested on my back, unmoving, solid, calm. I felt the weight of his presence more than any motion. It held me in that moment, like nothing else needed to happen, like the closeness said enough. His touch didn't change, but something in me did, not sudden, not sharp, just a quiet realization, the kind that comes when the world stops distracting you. I looked at him, and he looked back. No pressure, no questions, just a pause that felt like permission to be still. I moved closer, just enough for my shoulder to brush his. My hands slid to his chest, not pulling, just resting, palms against his heartbeat. The fabric under my fingers was warm from him, and that warmth said more than words could. I stayed there, listening to his steady breathing, not needing to answer anything. He dipped his head, his cheek against mine, and I closed my eyes. No rush, no urgency, just the gentle rhythm of closeness, of choosing not to move when you don't have to. His arm slipped around me, and I settled into the space he made, letting the silence wrap us both. Time slowed. Nothing existed outside that moment. No noise, no light, no next step to chase. I felt his breath, soft and steady, and I breathed in without thinking. Not because I had to, but because I could. We stayed like that, close enough to hear what the other didn't say. I stopped thinking, let the quiet linger, let my hands stay where they were, not for what came next, but for what was already there. And when I breathed again, it wasn't because I needed to. It was because I wanted to. Quick question before you go. If you were here, would you stay or walk away? Let me know in the comments. I'll read them. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Thanks for being here.